The Arctic blast this morning can be very hard on your car.
That's right. News 13's Lauren Brigman is live in Hendersonville with tips from the service manager at Bryan Easler Toyota. Lauren, really important to check the vehicle battery this time of the year.
Definitely, Jay and Holly. You want to make sure that your car is going to start when you go out in these cold temperatures, because that's the last thing you want is your vehicle not cranking. So I'm joined by the service manager of Bryan Easler Toyota. This is Doug Camp. And Doug, tell us, what's the first thing you should do when you walk out the door?
Very first thing I would do, I would allow at least 5 to 10 minutes, start your vehicle up. That's always the best thing to do if you have that means of doing so. Next thing you want to do after the vehicle's warming up, if you have other products also like Rain-X, some other products out there that you can defrost your window if your vehicle's sitting outside. That is another alternative. But the key is to start the vehicle, let it warm up if you can. The other thing too is always have your vehicle checked out prior to the cold weather coming in if you can.
Right.
Best thing, the most important thing is the battery. The battery life, the condition of the battery. I would definitely have it checked out at either dealership, your local shop or whatnot. Cold cranking amps of the battery in the wintertime especially, if cold cranking amps start dropping, it's very hard for this vehicle to start. Everything's really cold. It's going to be so much strain on that battery to start. If the cold cranking amps are down, it's not going to start. I guarantee it. If they recommend it to be replaced, I would definitely replace the battery.
So you need to bring it into a dealership before, preferably before these cold temps set in. But something you should do at home is check for corrosion, right?
Most definitely. Make sure the battery terminals are clean. Make sure the contacts are really good and tight. Always make sure of that. There's always neutralizers, different cleaners that you can buy at auto parts stores. Whenever you have your vehicle serviced every 5,000 miles, they should be doing that for you anyway. I would always recommend that to be done when you come in.
And having it inspected beforehand, you bring it in, set up a machine just like this to check it. You do that right here, right?
We sure do. That we do.
All right, we'll talk about the importance of checking your fluids, the antifreeze levels, windshield washer fluid, coming up at 5:30. Live in Hendersonville this morning, Lauren Brigman, News 13.
Keeping your car in working order is even more important in these bitter cold temperatures.
News 13's Lauren Brigman is live at Bryan Easler Toyota in Hendersonville. And Lauren, what vehicle fluids should we actually be checking on a regular basis?
Things like the antifreeze and windshield washer fluid are key to making sure your vehicle starts properly and then gets you where you need to go safely. So I'm joined by service manager of Bryan Easler Toyota. This is Doug Camp. Doug, tell us, what's one of the first things we should check?
First thing is your coolant, your antifreeze. Check the level of it. You can buy testers like this at any parts house, or once again, every time you bring your vehicle in for service, they can do this for you also, and they should be doing this for you too. What you look for is your level. This one right here is going to be about 40 below zero by the amount of dots here that's floating.
Okay, so that's good.
That's
good level.
Really good, really good. And then the other thing too that you're always going to, this is something that everybody forgets about, is the washer fluid. Washer fluid can freeze. If it freezes, you're not going to have anything that's coming out on the windshield to clean the windshield during snow. The other thing is if it freezes in here too, then it could bust your reservoir. You want to have this checked also. You have different types of your washer fluid too that you can purchase that will state what it's rated for also at your parts houses too.
Okay, so if this freezes, you're pretty much having to wait it out, right?
Most definitely, most definitely.
Okay, so all this can be purchased at a local retailer,
yes, it sure
or you can check these here. You can bring them into a service department.
Yes, you sure can. You sure can.
Great.
Most definitely. And just making sure all your fluids are topped off, that is a key also.
All right, and when should we be doing this? How far in advance?
Make sure you have it done every service, preferably before the cold weather sets in. That's always a plus. Every 5,000 miles, I would recommend it 3 to 5,000 miles, all depending on what your vehicle's rated for.
All right, and we'll take a look at what else you need to be checking. There's a series on this checklist, and we're going through different steps. We'll be live with him again at 6 o'clock. Live in Hendersonville this morning, Lauren Brigman, News 13.
That's right. News 13's Lauren Brigman is live in Hendersonville with the service manager at Bryan Easler Toyota. Lauren, what can you tell us about checking tire pressure this morning?
Well, tire pressure is key. Checking your vehicle's tires when you're heading out and you're having to drive on these icy or possibly even snow-covered roads. Your tires need to be in good shape. And I'm joined by service manager Doug Camp of Bryan Easler Toyota. Doug, tell us, how do you go about checking your tire pressure?
Tire pressure is key. Now that cars have the TPMS monitoring system, you want to make sure that the tire pressure stays even all the way around. If not, especially in the wintertime, you can actually set the TPMS monitor, the low tire pressure light off.
Okay.
It's done with just a standard tire gauge.
You can buy those anywhere, right?
Anywhere. Any of your auto parts houses, convenience stores, they even have them also.
Okay.
Most is going to be anywhere between 35, maybe even 40 pounds, all depending on what kind of vehicle it is too. The other thing too, especially in the wintertime, is tread depth. Tread depth, especially if you have a little bit of snow on the road, you want to get somewhere, tread depth, that's going to be key. Tread depth, if you don't have a tire depth gauge, the old way of doing it is by the penny. If you can see Lincoln's head on the penny, it might be time to get tires. At service stations, they can check it with a tire depth gauge, and inspection laws, you have to have at least 2 seconds tread before it'll pass inspection. To get around it, I wouldn't recommend going any lower than 4 seconds, if that's the key, especially for bad weather.
And you were talking, there's no specific type of tire to really get in winter weather, but just checking your tire depth?
Yeah, the tread depth is going to be key. I mean, like on a car, you'll have highway tread tires. On a truck like this, you'll have more of an aggressive tire on this truck. But it's just more so the tread depth, for sure.
Good things to keep in mind as you're hitting the roads today in these frigid temperatures. Good thing to check the tire pressure before you hit the roads. Reporting live in Hendersonville this morning, Lauren Brigman, News 13.
Falling temperatures can be tough on your vehicle.
News 13's Lauren Brigman is live in Hendersonville with some tips from the service manager of Bryan Easler Toyota. So, Lauren, what are you being told that we should do before we get out this morning and hit the roads?
Well, there is a variety of things you need to check, from the battery to your tires. You need a checklist to follow, and we're running through that checklist this morning with service manager Doug Camp here at Bryan Easler Toyota. And the first thing is the battery, right?
Most definitely. You want to make sure the batteries, all the terminals are clean, make sure the cold cranking amps are up in the battery, have it tested regularly. Also, once again, make sure your washer fluid is up to date as far as what temperature it's rated at. You do not want it freezing. The other thing too is your tread depth. Tread depth, you want to make sure you have good tread on the tire itself, because you want to be able to go if it gets a little dicey as far as snow goes. Safety kits. Safety kits is a good idea to keep in your car also. In case you do break down, you want to have a good flashlight, gloves, jumper cables if needed, and also it's always a good idea to keep a blanket, maybe an extra jacket in the vehicle with you also. I guess the best advice is if it's too bad, maybe stay at home until it gets better.
Definitely better to be safe than sorry, but a good thing to check all of these things before you head out if you do have to get out today.
Most definitely. Be prepared.
And the biggest thing is the tire pressure monitors, as you were saying, in most vehicles. Those will go off this morning.
They sure will. That they will. When the temperature drops down as cold as it is, if the tire pressure is even close, it will go off.
And that rule of thumb, the penny trick, tell us about that.
Look for the head of Lincoln. If you can see it, replace your tires.
All right, so maybe a good thing to check this morning, pump up the tires, and if that tread's too low, probably give you a call and come in and get some new tires before winter really does set in. We're live this morning in Hendersonville. Lauren Brigman, News 13.